SHIZZIO, the sagas continue another week. I'm trying my best to get the biggest and best, and you know what, I think even I have outdone myself this week. We've got none other than Imran Khan here in the studio. Well, we're at his house actually. I personally think they should give him a Lord title, but we'll get down to that later. Imran, absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Before I start, I'd like to say my dad is even here. My dad never comes to anything I do. He's sitting here at this shoot. So thank you very much for uniting us. Now, I'm going to start with cricket first. Obviously, an absolute legend. For people that don't know, you must be crazy. You need to go on Google or something. I mean, what first got you into cricket, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, Shazad, my two first cousins were both captain Pakistan. And when I was 9, my older cousin, I saw him score 100 against England in Lahore. So that's when I decided I wanted to be a cricketer. And my role model always was my, you know, these two cousins. So so one left cricket as I entered Test cricket, but the other one was a star for half my cricketing career.
Did you ever think that you would hold the World Cup? Like, did it ever occur to you, or were you just playing for the passion?
No. Well, put it this way: when I came into cricket, World Cup was not that big. You know, it was beating England, it was beating Australia, who were then the big teams, and then emerged, of course, the West Indies, which was, of course, in the 80s, the real challenge. It was how you compared to the West Indies, and they were one of the greatest teams in history. But World Cup after 1983 onwards became bigger and bigger, and so in 1987. We were the favourites to win the World Cup, but we had a bad day in the semi-final and we lost. And I really didn't think I'd play right up to the last World Cup. In fact, I only played the last World Cup because we were building a cancer hospital by then, and I needed to be in the limelight and pull something off big to raise the sort of money that was needed to finish the hospital.
Now, in my house, the 1992 World Cup is iconic. I know the commentary now off by heart. That's how many times it's been a loop. I know everything from all the shots and everything in my house. I mean, how did it feel to uplift an entire nation, you know, just by simply lifting a cup? Did you know that just by lifting a cup you could bring so much power to a nation, so much love and support from millions around the world?
Well, there were two facets of the World Cup. One, of course, was that midway through we were third from the bottom, and no one really gave us a chance midway through because they thought we were out. Anyway, from there, when we went on to win the World Cup, so number one is this: any team which comes from behind, you know, public urges it on, the underdog. And secondly, of course, when we actually won the World Cup, I knew people would be happy. Obviously, because people wanted, you know, people are cricket crazy, and the World Cup is a special title. But I did not expect them to be as ecstatic as they were once we came back.
It was too much. Even here, I mean, in my house, like I say, I know all the commentary word by word. I mean, obviously your whole Corner Tiger speech was iconic. I've just come through your house and I've seen about 50 tigers downstairs. I've seen a big painting. Is that something that just kind of you've kept with you, or is?
No. I always, as a child, I was always fascinated by the tiger, and you know, in my class we used to read these books, Jim Corbett's book about man-eating tigers in India, and so we grew up on that. And tiger is always a symbol of grace and dignity, and a symbol of pride, you know, a symbol of self-belief, that a tiger believes. He walks in the jungle and thinks, whatever comes, I can overcome it. Whatever opposition comes, I can win. And that was the sort of always what tiger symbolizes. So anyway, but the Corner Tiger was just really to tell the team not to be scared of defeat. You see, what happens is you freeze when you are scared of failure. When the fear of failure overcomes you, you cannot win. So to shed that fear, it was like be on a tiger where you have nothing to lose and just attack. It's always been actually my policy in cricket that the more attacking you are, the more aggressive you are, the more you go into the match to win rather than not to lose. Two different strategies. One, you go into the match not to lose, you're totally defensive. One, you walk into the match and think, I'm going to win, so your whole mindset changes.
Right.
And so the reason why we had great teams in the 70s, we couldn't win anything, because we were too scared of failure. In 80s, our teams weren't that great as the 70s, but we actually had probably our best time in the 80s. First time beating India in India, England in England. Only team not to be beaten by the West Indies in 3 series, and actually went there and drew a series. And then, of course, the World Cup and Nehru Cup. So they were remarkable wins because the mindset change. Rather than fearing failure, we went out to win, and so we were much more aggressive and positive.
But when you talk about fear, did you always have that fear that if you lose and you go back home, there's going to be people there who are not too happy because the passion in cricket in Pakistan is immense?
Well, that's why our teams of 70s used to be scared of failure and could not win anything, because they were always scared of the public backlash. But once you overcome that and just tell yourself that, yes, well, winning and losing is part of the game, and it doesn't matter. As long as you try your best, there's no shame in losing. As long as you fight to the last ball, there's no shame in losing. Once you have that attitude, everything else follows. So yes, there was always a worry what would be the public backlash. You know, as a top sportsman, you always have to remember that while when you win, you get all the accolades and you have all the sort of people, you know, swooning over you and fawning over you. But when you lose, it goes the other way. I mean, the higher the expectations, the higher the anger and disappointment.
That's fair enough, that's fair enough. Let's talk about cricket now. I mean, you've got 2020s coming now, you've got this Champions League now. I mean, do you feel cricket now is a much more changed environment, or do you feel it's kind of going where it kind of needs to go in terms of PR and pushing it as a worldwide sport?
Well, there are pluses and minuses. Plus is that, you know, cricket 2020 has brought in a new audience, especially in India, even in Pakistan, not so much in England. But in that part of the world, it has brought in a new audience. And as a result, has brought in a lot of money. Yeah,
I'm seeing movie stars endorsing teams and things like that. I mean, is that something that you like to see, or is that something you just think?
No, that's the positive, you know. It's drawn in new people. It's brought glamour in it. It's brought in a lot of money. Negative is that unless that balance is maintained between Test cricket and the shorter version, cricket will suffer, because as we have seen with India, a great one-day team just won the World Cup and got whitewashed in England because they just did not have the team to win Test matches.
But do you think that balance is being maintained? I mean, now people are in the habit of seeing 20 overs, they can barely see 50, so to see 5 days, it's like, forget it.
No, the balance is not being maintained, and it should be, because I think for India this could be a wake-up call. Here is India, you know, but more money than any other cricketing nation in Indian cricket. Indian cricketers probably make more money than any other cricketer. But here they were, whitewashed by an English team, which I won't say was an outstanding team. I mean, compare this to the team that won the Ashes. I thought they had a better bowling attack under when there was Flintoff and Harmison and even Anderson. I mean, I thought that was a more potent bowling attack than this one. And yet, you just compare what this team did to India. So it clearly shows that India was beaten by not that great. If India had been beaten by the West Indies like that of the 80s, or even the Australian team, which was at its peak, Gillespie, McGrath and Vaughan, Bretley, even that's a great team. But to be beaten by this team 4-0,
but
it wasn't.
I think England are #1 right now, right? Am I correct in saying that in the rankings?
Right.
How do you feel about that?
No, I think English team is this is a better English team for a while. Although I still think the Ashes winning England team was better than this.
But do you think
because they were up against a better team? For instance, they had, you know, McGrath, a world class, one of the all-time greats. They had Vaughan, all-time great bowlers. Then they had Gillespie, Bretley, a genuine fast bowler. I mean, this was a very strong team. To beat that team and win the Ashes, England did very well. And England did have a good attack. Four bowlers of high caliber, 4 seam bowlers. And if you compare that to this current team, that was better. Because a team test matches are won by superior bowling attacks.
Yeah.
And that bowling attack was superior to this.
Right, let me ask you now, looking back at cricket, who are your 3 all-time best players?
Well, number 1 was Viv Richards. I did not play, or neither have I seen a batsman of his caliber. Because he was, not just that his ability was supreme, not just that he was one of the most destructive batsmen, but also he used to perform when the team needed it. I mean, the bigger the match, the bigger the occasion, the bigger he played.
The more he would rise to it.
So that's why I rated him very highly, and he conquered the greatest bowlers. I mean, not just that. And 80s and late 70s had the best fast bowling ever in cricket history. And one man who would dominate fast bowlers. So he was a genius. The fastest bowler I ever saw was Michael Holding. Although Jeff Thompson was equally fast, I thought Holding was much more dangerous. In the 4 or 5 years, he only lasted 4 or 5 years.
So you got Viv at 1, who's at 2?
Well, Michael Holding, as a bowler, I thought he was the most. But I also thought Dennis Lillee and Malcolm Marshall were similar type of very close, outstanding bowlers.
That's too many names, Imran. I'm gonna need your all-time number 1, all-time number 2, and all-time number 3. If someone put a gun to your head, God forbid, and said, I need to know.
Someone will have to put a gun to my head and still get this reply. It's very, very difficult. Because you see, that was an era of outstanding fast bowlers. But the best batsman by far was Viv Richards. The best captain, so let me say, best fast bowler Viv Richards,
right.
Best batsman, fast bowler Michael Holding, and the best captain was Ian Chappell.
All right, I think I'm happy with that. I'm not going to prod you anymore.